devil. Oh, here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Shh, look out for the devil. Look out for the devil. Look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I. You're so afraid of old man Satan, now why don't you stop your hesitating? You're gonna be a long time dead, so the devil with the devil, says I. You're always giving me the dickens, telling me that life's no easy pickings. But just as long as I have fun, why, the devil with the devil, says I. You can have your social teas and bingo for your fun, but the things I like to do, you stop me one by one. Now even if you make me stronger, that ain't gonna make me live no longer. So even if I go to shh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Look out for the devil, look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Welcome to the Real Zagami show. In a very somber moment, of course, also a moment to remember Charlie Kirk. There will be his funeral on Sunday, tomorrow. Funeral, of course, with a lot of security, just like Super Bowl, level 1 security. And already today we had a guy who dressed up as a policeman trying to infiltrate the whole thing. So what we would like to remember of Charlie Kirk is his way of dialoguing, his way of trying to interact with the other side. Because when you stop doing that, you stop really this whole process we call democracy. And so we hope that everything is going to go fine this weekend. We really pray for his wife, for his family, and for all the people who work at the Turning Point USA. And of course, the president will be there, Donald J. Trump. He will be talking together with J.D. Vance. And today's subject is a particular subject, because we have for the first time the possibility of two Catholics battling for the presidential race of 2028. We talked many times about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the past, since she was presented by the Jesuits to the political scene in 2018. There was a big article on America, the Jesuit Review. I talked about it in volume 12 of my Confessions. This book talks about the history, secret societies, and the politics of the Jesuit New World Order and the Luciferian court that surrounds them and that they control, of course. So there is also people who don't really like J.D. Vance, though he has been fairly critical in the past, as I explained in volume 12 of Pope Francis, of the immigration policies of Pope Francis, the late Pope Francis, which, by the way, he was the last one to see before he suddenly died. But welcome, everybody, to the Real Zagami show. It's me and Christy here from Palm Springs, California, live on various platforms, Facebook, YouTube, X, Rumble, BitChute. Who are the sponsors today, Christy?
Joanne Otineru, Daniel Estes, Dennis Bolanos Enriquez, and Nagar Zaganita.
Thank you, guys. You see, GoFundMe. There is also Cash App as another opportunity. We would like also to simply be able to carry on this broadcast thanks to the purchase of my books. Now, this book in particular seems to be living a second, how you say, a second youth, volume
second
8.
life there.
Yeah, because in this book I explained Bella Ciao, this song, and what it meant for me and also for the left-wingers and the hideous people who are, of course, on the woke side of things. And that's why we suddenly see Bella Ciao that was written on one of the bullets that were... No, I don't think that one was directly probably used by Tyler Robinson, but unfortunately, guys, this whole world seems to be going completely mad. And so today we wanted to go back to the subject of politics, but in reality, making you understand that behind all this politics, there's always the long hand of the Jesuit order. Now, when it comes to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's a particularly evil person, especially after what she said yesterday against Charlie Kirk. I mean, Charlie Kirk has just been dead for a little over a week. There is a funeral taking place tomorrow. And for this despicable woman who grew up in a privileged environment and she pretends to be from the ghetto, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is actually the Jesuit choice, together with Governor Newsom, who is another Jesuit student, the choice for 2028. Listen to what she said.
Gentleman Representative Green, for his graciousness. Today, the Republican House majority brought to the floor a resolution honoring, quote, honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's assassination was a horrific and vile attack and incident of political violence. And condemning the depravity of Kirk's brutal murder is a straightforward matter.
So up until this point, she seems to be saying the right things. The problem is what she says after.
One that is especially important to help stabilize an increasingly unsafe and volatile political environment where everyday people feel more at risk. We can deeply disagree and come together as a country to denounce the horror of this killing. And it is not a license for the abuse of power and whitewashing of American history. Today's resolution only underscores the majority's recklessness by choosing to author this condemnation and honoring on a purely partisan basis, instead of uniting Congress in this tragedy with one of the many bipartisan options to condemn political violence and Kirk's murder, as we did with the late Melissa Hortman. Instead, the majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow.
Now she goes off the plantation, as I say. Now she goes off the plantation, as I say.
And the legacy of bigotry today. We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. Who, after the violent attack on Paul Pelosi, claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out his brutal assailant. And accused Jews of controlling, quote, not just the colleges, it's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's...
Here really, she seems to really say a lot of incorrect stuff. From my own personal experience, Charlie Kirk was very much a guy friendly with all races. The guy who actually wanted to introduce me to Charlie Kirk is a Mexican guy who is totally not white at all. And he himself testimonied to me that Charlie Kirk was absolutely didn't have a gram of racism in his body. So that is already fake. Then you have, of course, all this attack about the bigotry, the alleged bigotry of Charlie Kirk. And I repeat, this is done in a specific, in a way that is specifically before the funeral, so completely disrespectful of Charlie Kirk's family, of his followers, of the millions of people who have been praying for him, mourning him in the last few days. But this is what the Jesuits want. They want confrontation. They don't want dialogue. They want more hate, more rage. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the ideal candidate. She is, of course, as we know, her mentor, Bernie Sanders, another Jesuit stooge who used to love going and bowing down to Pope Francis. But she's even worse. She's even worse. I explained it in volume 12, my latest book. And you can simply, for confirmation, going into the American Jesuit Review, and see it for yourself. She was launched politically in June 2018 by the American Jesuit Review. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, on her Catholic faith and the urgency of criminal justice reform and all this BS.
Of it, unquote. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution. It is equally important that Congress does unite to reject the government's attempt to weaponize this moment into an all-out assault on free speech across.
Now, all-out assault on free speech. Let me remind these people from the left what they did to free speech, because during the Joe Biden presidency, I had 17 channels removed from YouTube. I was deplatformed from PayPal. I can't have any longer a PayPal. They never gave it back to me. And even when they apologized publicly, PayPal, because they had to, in the end, apologize for what they were doing, using politically the deplatforming of people like me, they didn't give it back to me. So these people, I mean, I have still a Twitter account called Leo Zagami. Now, of course, I have the official X account where you're watching me from. But there is still frozen in time back into the summer of 2020, a Leo Zagami account that was never given back to me. I can never accede to this account. It's there, frozen in time, as a testimony of the censorship of the left. My last post was dedicated to Donald J. Trump. Now, this is what is happening here. They started the cancel culture. They are the ones who triggered this whole thing. And now there is a reaction, of course. We would all like it to be more, let's say, in a way, not so aggressive against the left, because, we could be tomorrow again on the same situation, and they will be forcing upon us even more censorship. I think Ben Shapiro said, that he was against what happened listening to Jimmy Kimmel. Now, I think Jimmy Kimmel was censored simply because he was no longer making money for a company that wants to make money again. I mean, Disney, with all their woke policies, and ABC has literally bankrupted an empire. And so they want to regain some credibility. In any case, at the moment, we have the Jesuits in charge of most universities in California, and the rest of the nation sees the Jesuits being planted in the main universities, spewing their propaganda and orchestrating their games against the current administration. when we say there is too much wokeism in the university. It's the Jesuits. And that's why the Jesuits wanted to eliminate somehow a guy like Charlie Kirk. Everybody's pointing their fingers at Israel, but nobody's pointing their fingers at the Vatican. Even when in the last interview, first actually interview given by Pope Leo the 14th, just a few days ago, he has confirmed he's no fan of Donald J. Trump, and he is basically a leftist. He even said that if there was a soccer match, he would probably be on the side of Peru rather than the United States of America. So the guy is in the interview that Pope Leo XIV has given, there is a specific part dedicated to the LGBT and the trans. Now, we know that just 2 weeks ago, the whole LGBTQ plus community arrived in Rome, headed by Father James Marty, and another protagonist of Volume 12 of my Confessions, a Jesuit, who is also in charge of America, the Jesuit Review, who launched Alexandria Occasio Cortez. Well, listen very carefully to what Pope Leo says. Pope Leo has even the courage of stating during this interview that he thinks it's the Westerners who are obsessed with sex. We're talking here about a pope from a little state of 900 people who are all obsessed with sex. And he did half of the interview in Castel Gandolfo, and the other half, he did it from the Palace of the Inquisition, where only a few years ago, there was a raid that found a secretary of a cardinal, Coco Palmiero, filled with cocaine and with male prostitutes. From the very same rooms, he gives this interview.
The very strong ideological views that can be present on that issue. How is that something you plan to address?
Well, I don't have a plan at the moment. I was asked about that already a couple of times during these first couple of months about the LGBT issue. What are you going to say? And I recall something that a cardinal from the eastern part of the world said to me, something before I was Pope, about the Western world is fixated, obsessed with sexuality.
The Western world is obsessed with sexuality. The Vatican is obsessed with sexuality. These are the most scandalous individuals. And the problem is they're not obsessed with normal sexuality. They're obsessed with the little children. This Pope is really something even worse than Pope Francis was, because he is hiding himself much better. He's not so outspoken like the Jesuit Pope, but he's much more insidious as an Augustinian one.
So that a person's identity for some people it's all about sexual identity, and for many people in other parts of the world, that's not a primary issue in terms of how we should deal with one another.
So sexuality is not the primary issue. Dear Pope, I think that Tantra is an Indian invention. They seem to be rather obsessed with sex. They're pretty obsessed with sex in Japan. They're pretty obsessed with sex in China. They're pretty obsessed with sex in Russia. They're pretty obsessed with sex everywhere in the world. And especially you and your priest are obsessed with sex. The most kinky sex, the most perverted sex, and the most hypocrite sex, as 80% of the priests are homosexuals and 50% are pedophiles.
So that's, I confess that's on the back of my mind, because as we've seen at the Synod, any issue dealing with the LGBTQ kinds of questions, that also is highly polarizing within the church. And for now, because of what I've already tried to demonstrate and live out in terms of my understanding of being Pope at this time in history, I'm trying not to continue to polarize promote polarization in the church. And I'm trying to say, is what Francis said very clearly when he would say, todos. Everyone's invited in. But I don't invite a person in because they are or are not of any specific identity. I invite a person in because he's a son or daughter of God. And say, you're all welcome. And let's get to know one another and respect one another. And at some point, when specific questions will come up, I mean, obviously at some point, people want church doctrine to change, want attitudes to change. I think we have to change attitudes before we ever change doctrine. I find it highly unlikely, in certainly in the immediate future, that the church doctrine, in terms of what the church teaches about sexuality, what the church teaches about marriage. I've already spoken about marriage. As Pope Francis, when he spoke about a family being a man and a woman in solemn commitment, blessed in the sacrament of marriage. But even to say that, I understand that some people will take badly. And you know, in Northern Europe, they are already publishing rituals of blessing people who love one another, is the way they express it. And which goes specifically against the document that Pope Francis approved, Fiducia Supplicans, which basically says, first we can bless all people, but it doesn't look for a way of ritualizing some kind of blessing, because that.
Well, we already know that in Germany they are ritualizing the blessing of homosexual couples, and they are done in other parts of the world. However, what is more astonishing of this Pope is, of course, not a word on Charlie Kirk, but there has been a cardinal that is very well known, who has said, Cardinal Dolan, who has hailed Charlie Kirk as a modern-day Saint Paul. He was definitely an evangelist, Charlie Kirk. He was a guy who was pretty fixated on the Bible, and that's why he was so hated by the left. The left seems to be today everything that is satanic, everything that is anti-God. Like I said, Timothy Cardinal Dolan was somebody who actually admitted that he could have never imagined an American Pope, because he didn't even know Pope Leo XIV, who the Jesuits had prepared since 2023 with Pope Francis behind the scenes, and who they imposed during the election of the Pope. Timothy Cardinal Dolan is definitely somebody who admits at times some great truths, and is very close, as we know, also with Trump. But the fact that he even talks about Charlie Kirk, because everybody at the moment is talking about Charlie Kirk, it's almost like the Catholic Church is forced here in America to mention the fact that Charlie Kirk was a Christian. The wife is Catholic. At times now, recently, there's been people even saying that he was Catholic, but he actually had discussions on Catholicism, Protestantism, extended discussions, as J.D. Vance admitted during his show from the White House when he was sitting in the place of Charlie Kirk a few days ago conducting the Charlie Kirk show. So the actual view we have of J.D. Vance at the moment is that he's a little bit ambiguous. He comes, of course, from a very poor background. He ends up in very elitist circles, and we hope that he will never bow down to those elitist circles, though it's really true, guys, that we have to admit once and for all that anybody who goes to Washington bows down to these elitist circles sooner or later. I mean, we can all participate to this great electoral game, to this the presidential race, to these midterms elections that are coming up next year. But the truth is that when they get to Washington, somehow they are compromised. And that compromise comes also from maybe things that they have on them. They can blackmail them. Maybe they are on the Epstein files. Now, I found very interesting what has been said on September 17th on CNN by John Kennedy. Now, he's no member of the Kennedy family, but he is a great politician, and he's somebody who has, first of all, said in this interview that we need to go back to some common sense, because with these social networks, we are amplifying our thoughts in a way that never happened before, and so we're amplifying also our division. I mean, imagine if before the social network era, no, you will not know what your cousin, your colleague, your aunt, what they voted, what was their political stand. Now everybody
Or what
knows
they ate for lunch.
what they ate for lunch. But now everybody knows everything about everybody, and it seems like, you know, this exacerbates our division, and that's why we are getting dangerously close to a civil war in this country. Now, let's listen to the very, I would say, I mean, John Kennedy's words in this interview, for me, are very good. They are full, they are the words of a sage. They are not only a politician that has been there for decades. Let's listen to him. I would definitely love John Kennedy as a president. I know that's not possible. He's a little bit too old, probably, and he doesn't have that kind of support. But what he says in this interview, especially with CNN, is common sense renewed.
About some other important things, which is you do have this new book, How to Test Negative for Stupid. You have been in public life a long time.
Yeah.
You have seen a lot.
Yep.
We are enduring a very difficult national moment right now in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But you have, like I said, lived a lot of American history. How are you thinking about this moment that we are in now? How do our divisions, how are they the same? How are they different, better, worse than they've been at other difficult points in our history? Can we move through this?
They're worse, in my judgment, at least during my lifetime. I think I'm like most Americans, Casey. I'm tired of the ugly. I think we've lost perspective. There are a lot of things in life more important than politics, a whole lot more important. Your kids are a lot more important to you than politics. My son's more important to me than politics. Here's what happened. Here's what's happened. In part, as a result of social media, people treat others who disagree with them as not just being in error, but in sin. And once you start believing that someone who disagrees with you is evil, then violence against that person that you disagree with can seem like justice. You lose all perspective. Now, most Americans aren't like this, but many are. And many of them, the social media, which promotes this, puts them over the edge. Look, I'm not blaming it all on social media, because I believe in free will and responsibility. But there's no denying that social media has lowered the cost of being an a-hole. People say things on that computer that
lowered the cost of being an a-hole. And then he says, people say things on that computer, in old school. Yeah, it's great.
they wouldn't say to another human being's face, and it's just become rage bait, and we need to address it. But in terms of how to stop hate, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know whether you pray. I do.
I do.
And when I talk to my God, every single time I ask God, don't let me hate. Because it's hard. We get in the middle of all this, and we have strong opinions, and we disagree. But you can't let yourself hate. And you've got to constantly remind yourself of that. And I don't have any solution except try to exercise some self-control. Now, you played the hearings from the Judiciary Committee with the director of the FBI and the House members, and the same thing happened yesterday. When you have adults acting like kids fighting in the back of a minivan and screaming at each other and calling each other everything but an ignorant slut, that doesn't help. Because
I know this. I imagine the face of Kash Patel, who has like a poker face most of the time.
a lot of this does start at the top.
We saw you there questioning Kash Patel, and I just keep coming back to this question. Why do you think it is that they won't put these files out?
The Epstein files. Now, guys, remember, we were never going to forget the Epstein files. Here on the Leo Zagami show, the Epstein files are always going to be present. We want to have some clarity about them. We don't care if they're going to expose Trump or his friends or anybody, because first of all, we want clarity on the Epstein files. That is a must. And whoever wants to forget the Epstein files is doing it at his own risk, because God is never going to forget those sins. I mean, guys, regardless of the political division, at least certain things need to be very clear. We can't condone in any way, shape, or form pedophilia. And so when we had just the other day another of the protagonists of the Epstein saga, Alex Acosta, the former U.S. attorney who negotiated Epstein's plea deal, appearing in front of the House Oversight Committee, pretending he didn't know anything, actually criticizing the girls and doing all that stuff. I mean, that is really something we can't condone. We can't condone, we can't. Alex Acosta, and what he said apparently was truly outrageous. This guy is a scumbag. I don't care if he was also at one point involved with, I think it was the first Trump administration, but this guy is a scumbag. And he's covering for some very powerful people. But let's go back to what John Kennedy says, because he says things in a way that are more than acceptable for the Republican side.
But they're going to have to put them out sooner or later.
Are they covering for people?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I have been saying since the beginning of this, it's not complicated. Here's what the American people are thinking. They've been listening to all this for several years, and they followed it pretty closely. And here's what they're thinking. Okay, Epstein was a pig. Epstein trafficked young women, some of whom were minors. He trafficked them in part, or maybe in whole, to himself. But he had a lot of friends and a lot of important people. Who else did he traffic these young girls to? Now, that's a very appropriate question. And the Justice Department, to which the president has kicked this issue, is going to have to answer that. It's just that simple. It's not going away.
Do you think that the president is potentially one of those people?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Are they trying to cover up for the president?
I asked Kash yesterday, point blank. I said, who else, if anyone, besides Epstein, were these young women trafficked to? And he said, nobody. It's not in our files. Now, and that's fine. I'm not saying he's lying. I don't know one way or the other. I'm just saying that after all the rhetoric, they're going to have to release the files and let people decide for themselves.
One of the things that came out in the documents that were given to Congress recently is a copy of this so-called birthday book, of which there is a note from President Trump. President Trump says it's not his signature on that page. Do you think that's plausible?
I have no idea. I'm not a handwriting expert. President Trump and Epstein, in their younger days, were running buddies. Do I think that the Justice Department is covering for President Trump? Honestly, no. I mean, I haven't seen the files, Casey, but I don't think so. But I wouldn't faint from surprise to find out that there are a lot of other important people named in those files. And the American people want to know who they are, and that's perfectly understandable.
Kash Patel today promised that he would investigate the birthday book. Do you believe him when he says that?
Well, he's done nothing to make me disbelieve him. I'll put it that way. I do think that the FBI, or rather the FBI, but also the Justice Department, now that the president has kicked this issue to them, understands they're going to have to release these documents. They've decided to do it piecemeal through a House committee. Frankly, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd rip the Band-Aid off. I just put it all out there in front of God and country. The American people, they don't read Aristotle every day. They're too busy earning a living, but they're plenty smart enough to figure this out. But, you know, I'm not in charge.
Why do you think House Republicans blocked the subpoena of the bank records? Isn't follow the money the very first tenet of any investigation like this? Why
Well,
did they do that?
I think the White House is pressured. They pressured the House and they pressured the Senate to try to let's get past this issue. And I understand that. I'm sure in the White House's mind there are other important things more important things to talk about. But the problem with that is that many people in the administration talked frequently before they became part of the administration, and some afterwards, about how, you know, there's some really important people there and involved, and the American people need to know, and now they've got to come clean. And I'm ready to get past it. If it were up to me, I'd just release the documents and let the chips fall where they may. Could the president be mentioned in them? Maybe. Wouldn't be surprised if he was, because he and Epstein many years ago were friends. But we'll never get past this on to other important things until they release the documents.
Very well said. I couldn't have said it better. I think that all Americans deserve to know the truth about the Epstein saga, controversy, affair, and of course his files, alleged archives containing the names of important people or other material. There is thousands of videos that are simply being categorized by Pam Bondi as child pedophilia that we are not allowed to see. Now, we would like to know. We would like to see, even if that is something that might, of course, trigger the reaction of some very powerful people, because I think that everybody wants to know more about Epstein and
also to protect the victims.
Yes, of course.
Children.
I mean, I really, when I heard that hideous guy the other day, Alex Acosta, had the courage to say that the victims were not credible in front of the commission. I mean, and the Republicans need to understand this is an ethic and moral matter that can't be simply bypassed by ignoring it. I mean, I'm no Democrat, I'm no leftist, but this is a very important case. Now we need to be always on the moral high ground, you know, on the right side of history and the right side of the law. And you know, on the other side, we have wokeism and leftism, which are becoming, they are actually condoning the assassination of Charlie Kirk in some cases. And what is happening is that they are condoning violent behavior, from Luigi Mangione to other crazy people. Now, just yesterday, we had the confirmation of something that, of course, adds to what I've been saying already in an interview I gave to Michael Jaco this week, but it's good to reiterate also for my own audience. There is the growing problem of a transsexual, a trans terrorist modality. Just like I explained in volume 10 of my Confessions, the Salafists, the Islamic fundamentalists are easy to manipulate by using the Quran. These other idiots, these wokist, leftist trannies, are the terrorists of the future. And just yesterday, we have the confirmation that a guy who attempted to kill Judge Kavanaugh now wants to be called Sophie. Now, this is the sickest of the sickest things that can come out here. I mean, a man who attempted to assassinate Kavanaugh and a woman, and he wants to be called Sophie. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, what's wrong with these people? What's wrong with these people? I mean, it's obvious, and I'm talking here from Drag Queen Central. If you are actually a drag queen or you wear a wig in Palm Springs, they give you over $1,000 without doing anything, just because you are a woman. No, you're not a woman. Like Charlie Kirk said, You can't become a Mexican by wearing a sombrero. You can't become a woman by wearing women clothes. I can't just steal Christie's clothes and become a woman.
You'd be an ugly woman.
Well, now, another thing I want to show you regards Charlie Kirk, and it's something that I actually have written in this book and that Muslims have not been able to debunk, is the fact that Prophet Muhammad was in reality a pedophile. Now, it's, I think, very important for me to show you this, this brief clip of Charlie Kirk, because he wanted to dialogue everybody, but he wanted reason to prove, and substance to prove his side. And when it comes down to Prophet Muhammad, well, I think this dialogue here was excellent.
True that they say Muhammad is the greatest man ever to live.
Yes.
Was Muhammad a warlord?
Yes.
How many people did he kill?
Lots.
Thousands.
Yeah.
How many was he responsible for? Tens of thousands of deaths?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it true that he married a 9-year-old named Aisha?
No, he actually married a 6-year-old.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that would be pedophile.
Yeah. As disgusting as it is, I would like to pause there for a second, because when we talk about a 6-year-old being married, first off, it's not simply marrying a 6-year-old. It is the Prophet Muhammad, the most perfect figure for all mankind. He is in his 50s, and without any necessity at all, he picks and marries a 6-year-old little girl. And then when she's 9 years old, he then consummates the marriage in his mid-50s with her. And that's his third wife, and at that point, his second living wife. So he has absolutely no need for this. He does it just because.
So Muhammad, the greatest man ever to live, the greatest example, was a warlord who married a 6-year-old, raped her when she was 9, and then kept multiple wives.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, the Bible also has plenty of stories of multiple wives and bad behavior. But this is so important. There's a difference between what the Bible describes and what the Bible prescribes. Description of behavior in the Bible does not mean prescription of the Bible. For example, Solomon having many wives is not prescribed to you. It actually ended really bad for him. He ended as a madman, actually. And Ecclesiastes is like one of the saddest books ever. He's like, meaningless, meaningless. All of life is meaningless. And the kicker, guys, we never say Solomon is the greatest man ever to live.
Precisely.
This is the whole important thing. They hold Muhammad at a higher level than Christ our Lord.
Wow.
He's really powerful.
And that's why, like Trump said, he could have been a future president. He had the characteristic of a future president. And that...
We would have been very lucky
I mean,
to have
that
him.
is like a bit of a turning point in history, like the death, the assassination of JFK, or even his brother. Because if we go in a time machine and we stop at the assassination of JFK, we will not have had Vietnam. We will not have had everything that came out of it. If probably in 50 years from now, somebody with a time machine stops the killing of Charlie Kirk and he becomes president of the United States, we might have avoided, who knows what, because, history is still in the making. But this is really, these are those moments in history when they eliminate certain figures, which really changed then the timeline for everybody, not only the person involved or his family, because we're talking about a historical being, somebody of historical importance, as I'm sure many of you are going to agree. Please share this video. It's very important. On your social networks of choice, we have been shadow banned for years. And they talk about the censorship, and nowadays the left talks about the censorship. I've been one of the most censored people on the planet for decades now.
Nobody knows us except you guys.
Because they have removed the channels with thousands and thousands of subscribers, and like I said, 17 channels removed during the Biden administration. That just to give you an idea. So for,
even removed me, I didn't even do anything.
Roseanne Barr ended up on my channel when she was taken away from cancel culture. She was on my channel.
They haven't did a show together.
And we used to do a show together during the early days of the pandemic. And then we have on my channel people like, for example, Sean Stone, who yesterday was with Piers Morgan and who talked together with his father about this assassination of Charlie Kirk as a pivotal moment. And maybe there is the involvement of other people, or maybe, shadowy government or a deep state or a foreign actor that wanted to eliminate Charlie. But let's not forget, because it's very important in all this, let's not forget the pain of his family, and not forget who were the manual executors of this assassination. Because the manual is a guy who was together with a fairy transsexual, who was brainwashed by fairy.
Your fairy sounds like furry. Sounds like fairy.
You know how you say it?
Furry.
Yeah, somebody who
they want to be like a cat or something.
Okay, sorry if I say this word.
No, you're not allowed to curse. There's children. There could be children. Okay. Small children watching this. You are not allowed.
Okay, no, I'm not allowed.
No, he's not.
But these are the queer terrorists of Salt Lake City behind the operation.
This little island a couple of miles away from America, 90 miles away from America.
They are Marxists who, of course, support Cuba and, guys, connected to China.
They have a president who talks like us. They have a president who understands the need for a liberated Palestine. And I think that was, that definitely altered my worldview as an organizer.
And they said, a liberated Palestine. These guys, these armed queers will last 2 minutes in a liberated Palestine. 2 minutes.
Maybe less.
Maybe less. At the second minute, they will be killed, thrown off a roof cliff.
Like, we love you.
That's it. I mean, they are insane. They are literally insane. It's like, where is the sanity of these people? It doesn't exist. I mean, like the Times of India has said, these armed queers are also connected to a very important figure who is itself connected to the Chinese Communist Party. Links to the Chinese Communist Party. What is Armed Queers LSC? Group under spotlight after Charlie Kirk. Christy, what does it say here?
The killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk has placed armed queers Salt Lake City under intense scrutiny, with the group's name surfacing in federal investigations. Kirk, the 31-year-old co-founder of Turning Point USA, was shot dead during an event at Utah Valley University
and he was shot
last week.
Just moments after he was asked a question about the trans. Just, these armed queers are sick people, mentally deranged people. And obviously we have seen it now. The guy who was trying to kill Kavanaugh now wants to become Sophie. One thing is to be gay. The other one is to be a mentally deranged subject who thinks he can be a woman. Okay?
You're saying that I recalled a very powerful moment at the May Day March of me realizing just how much the Cuban people believed in us.
The Cuban people. That's why the mayor of Los Angeles was visited Cuba 5 times and was a friend of Fidel Castro, has refused to put an American flag down for Charlie Kirk.
What a turd.
That is the incredible thing here. But there is other incredible things, like, a pride flag at half-staff to honor Charlie Kirk has created fury here in Southern California.
This place. Tell you what.
I mean, here in the queer enclave of West Hollywood, some residents were furious at the sight of a pride flag and a transgender flag lowered to half-staff to mourn Charlie Kirk's assassination, which I think it was a great thing to do. No, they had to go on the attack.
It's really like the way that the things that they're saying about him is just so bad.
Hello to our friend Alessandro Pantaloni, who is in the chat. We have many friends who are joining us from all over the world. We are, of course, the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy. You can follow us every Saturday. I want to thank our sponsors who make this show possible. Today, who are our sponsors, Christy?
Malgrazana Minta and Daniel Estes. And I got it in my brain. Dennis Enrique. Dennis Bolano Enrique.
Whoa.
And or something like that.
Yeah.
And oh wait, one more. Joanne Otenero.
I think Dennis, he asked me a question and I answered it because he answered, "Do you get in contact with a mental counselor when you get inspiration?" No, I told him, the only thing I get in contact with is God, and I hope that God stays in contact with me because He always is my main source of inspiration. There's no mental counsel or outer space counsel or any kind of counsel.
Same for me too. I only pray to God. So.
That can be equivalent of God. Going back to that Jesuit stooge or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this is what she said in the year 2020 about her Christian faith. She's a Catholic. She's endorsed by the Jesuits through the America Review, and so Father Martin, the emissary of all LGBTs from America, they love her very much, they endorse her, but this is what she actually said. So this gives you an idea of their sick ideology.
Thank you, Chairman. I am experiencing this hearing and I'm struggling whether I respond or launch into this question as a legislator or from the perspective of a woman of faith, because I cannot.
She says she's a woman of faith. Whoa, a woman of what kind of faith?
In what?
I don't know. The devil?
It's very difficult to sit here and
listen. And listen and not listen and spew garbage from your mouth.
To arguments in the long history of this country of using scripture and weaponizing and abusing scripture to justify bigotry. White supremacists have done it. Those who justified slavery did it. Those who fought against integration did it. And we're seeing it today. And sometimes, especially in this body, I feel as though if Christ himself walked through these doors and said what he said thousands of years ago, that we should love.
Yeah, and 2,000 years ago, not thousands. Just so you know, if you're a Christian, maybe you know that we are in the year of the Lord 2020 when you were giving such incredible
25.
performance. No, she was in 2020. She gave this incredible performance.
Of our neighbor and our enemy. That we should welcome the stranger, fight for the least of us, that it is easier for a rich man, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into a kingdom of heaven. He would be maligned as a radical and rejected from these doors.
Okay, did Jesus go and shoot 3 bullets and then get arrested in Sacramento because Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air? No, I'm just curious about this. I think that we have lost perspective here. The left is suddenly transforming Jimmy Kimmel almost in Charlie Kirk. No, Jimmy Kimmel is an idiot who goes on TV and makes us laugh for money, a lot of money. His ratings were going down. ABC has dumped him. We know what he said about Jimmy Kimmel was just out of this world.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing.
Well, yes, anything than one of them. Yeah, and it wasn't one of them because it's one of yours, of your sick individuals from the left who have this very sick and twisted ideology. Now, I'm not saying that everybody on the right is a saint. I'm not saying that there is no extremists on the right because there's some sick Nazis who the other day tried to infiltrate the Huntington Beach great ceremony dedicated to Charlie Kirk. this is obvious. We have idiots all over the place, extremists, but today the more obvious guys who goes and shoot people are from the left. And a lot of them are drag queens, transsexuals, whatever they are. They are simply people who are sick in the head.
Fox News alert. The man who attempted to kill Brett Kavanaugh isn't a man. He's trans.
Okay, wow, what an announcement. Breaking news.
Documents reveal Nicholas Roski has changed his identity. He's now Sophie Roski.
Now, it could be Sophie the robot. I don't know, because we have also Sophie the robot, Sophia the robot. Maybe there is some relationship.
Boy.
Because, guys, at the end, transhumanism and transgenderism are part of this transformation of mankind in something that in a few years from now is going to be just a monstrosity. So, that's what they want. They want to abandon us made in the image of God, to transform us in the image of, I don't know, of Satan, of cyber Satan. Yeah, I know. It's pretty sick. I mean, this world is going towards a direction that none of us likes. And we have a Pope who condones all this. But I repeat, the shooting at the ABC station, I was just saying.
Tonight, gunshots fired at an ABC-affiliated television station in Sacramento.
And then they arrested the guy, and he was an extreme leftist who, of course, was angered by the fact that Jimmy Kimmel had been fired. I repeat, how can you be angered by a comedian who earns millions being fired? And especially after he obviously lied. You see, it's not about, a lot of people saying Trump is censoring. Trump is now becoming a totalitarian dictator who wants to take off shows from the TV. But these shows have been spewing propaganda for years, and nobody is watching them because, guys, it's about mathematics. If Trump has won with a large majority of the popular vote, who is going to watch TV? And ABC, as well as other channels like the one, what was it, CBS with Steve Colbert, or other channels that have dumped other idiots, know perfectly well that if the majority of Americans are not on board with them, they can't sell their products. Because it's true, the comedian late at night is also a guy who has to sell products, because you're going to have a commercial break. You're going to have something to support those sponsors. No? So we have Steve Colbert, who was, of course, canceled, but he still has a few months with this CBS talk show, The Late Show. Now we have Jimmy Kimmel. Maybe in the future we will have some other idiot. But the truth, all these comedians are like saying, oh, it's the First Amendment, the threat of the First Amendment. So where were you when I was censored only because, I was saying the origin of the virus is in China? Boom, censored. And you will get a notification. Medical advice, blah, 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 blah. Or even stating for a minute, the vaccine is dangerous. Boom, channel down. Yeah.
We didn't even have to say it. If somebody called in and said it, we'd get our channel removed.
Yeah, remember. I mean, we opened the phone lines at one point, and we were getting our show canceled simply because a listener would say, oh, well, boom, that's it. And so the level of censorship they had, at one point, I remember when Newsom was recalled, and he won probably in a fraudulent way, he had made the algorithms in California in a way that if you criticize Newsom being re-elected and reconfirmed after the recall, you were banned, and our channel was banned. Or I remember another time when basically we were broadcasting the voice of Hunter Biden, who was saying, oh, I'm friends with the head of the Chinese Secret Service, and this and that. And only because you were picking up something from Hunter Biden's laptop, boom, channel down. And Facebook, not 1 month, off Facebook because you have mentioned Hunter Biden's laptop.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I mean,
yeah, it's just a bunch of crap, Amore.
I mean, these people are talking about censorship. I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is talking about censorship. Alexandria Ocasio, I mean, are we insane? Are we going all mad? It is obvious here that there is a reaction also from Trump, who should start to moderate his terms to not scare too many people by stating basically, I will, nobody can talk badly about me because I will censor them. I don't think that is a good thing.
I can't believe you said that.
That's
very bad.
But
I understand. People should be able to say what they want in America without being censored.
I understand
but
why.
You can't talk really. You can't really, overall, it's known that you can't really say the things that they say about the president. I mean, you're not supposed to.
But there's a thing, I mean, during the Biden presidency, they went after Trump using the legal system with bullshit cases in New York, bullshit cases in Georgia, bullshit cases all around in Florida when they sent the FBI because of documents that were supposed to be top secret that were. All this, of course, has triggered an emotional, psychological reaction because he's being persecuted. It's like me. I've been persecuted in Italy. If I became president of Italy, that will never happen because I'm no longer Italian. I would probably go after every single asshole who persecuted me. I will lock them up because what they did was completely outrageous. But unfortunately, these assholes from the left now are like, Trump is censoring. And, Trump was just in England when the Jimmy Kimmel show was taken off the air. And the journalists said, there, are you there? What about censorship? Because, England is a place, Great Britain, where basically now you have an Orwellian state where you can't even mention Islam, you get a visit from the police. You can't mention abortion, you get a visit from the police.
That's crazy.
If you are, against abortion, you get arrested in Great Britain, or you get a visit by the police immediately. So all this, I mean, there was a woman praying in front of an abortion center. She wasn't even loud. She was praying in her head. What are you doing? I'm praying. Boom, arrested.
They arrested somebody for praying.
In England they arrested people. Or if you mention Islam, if you mention Islam, I mean, like Tommy Robinson fought against the Muslim gangs of pedophiles that are running rampant in Great Britain, and he was persecuted over and over again. So the thing is, Great Britain doesn't have the same freedom of press, and you could see that the prime minister was in great difficulty when he was with Trump and they made this question, because he was trying to say, we are based, we fought during the war for this, for that, and all the other. Well, I mean, you can, of course, talk about Mossad, this, and then that behind the Kirk, there might have been Israel, and guys, we need more tangible evidence. Of course, there was an interest that Israel had in bringing Charlie Kirk to work for them, or at least to promote the Israeli cause. And Charlie Kirk was, in the last few months of his life, always trying to maintain an equilibrium and not, fall for these kind of proposals. So he was very, very correct in the way he was moving. When they asked him not to bring Tucker Carlson because of that, he refused and he brought Tucker Carlson. He said, that makes me want to bring him even more a turning point. But the problem is, guys, that the interest, if we go and see who had really interest to kill Charlie Kirk, and we see the people who back the unqueers of Salt Lake City, guys, our enemy is the Chinese communists. Wake up. Wake up. Take it out of your fucking brains that our enemy is basically Israel. Israel is an enemy because the Sabbatai and Frankists are part of Israel and its foundation. But the real enemy, aside from that, is, of course, the Chinese communists. They are the ones who are going to be ruling the world in 2030 with the most powerful artificial intelligence.
Well, you're making my lip twitch.
No, but I mean, the fact that we have, of course, these people, I have I want to conclude the show with with a guy who I like very much, a group I like very much, the Smiths, Morrissey. Morrissey is canceling his concert because he said he was from the right. He was against Islamic people, against the Chinese, and now he has to cancel his concerts here in the United States of America.
Wow.
It's not the Mossad who's canceling his concerts, guys. He's canceling his concert because the threats come from those assholes on the left who are the mercenaries of the New World Order, just like the Muslims, who put a bomb in a Fox van 2 days after Charlie Kirk was killed. See, what he said? He's also not Muslim public figure and ritual, including London Mayor Sadiq and Eid observances. I repeat, Morrissey had to cancel his concerts here in the United States of America.
Seen in the window of the lobby, an employee of the techno.
And who has shot ABC headquarters in Sacramento? Was it Mossad? No, it was a leftist idiot. And there is many leftist idiots. I'm not saying that the Mossad doesn't have a Sabbatean Frankist labor Zionist side, because unfortunately that's strong. Because unfortunately Rothschild is the Rothschild family, which are very much embedded in the foundation of Israel, as Sabbatean Frankists. Please read volume 10 of my Confessions. Open your mind to this reality. Try to understand who is really behind what is happening in Gaza. Try to understand what is happening here behind the universities in the United States by reading volume 12 of my Confessions. Try to open your mind instead of simply going by the 1 or 2 pages that you get on the internet. I'm not saying, guys, that the Mossad of Netanyahu are not involved with despicable things. But trust me, guys, you will not want to aid those people in Gaza for 1 day, because they are brainwashed from when they are 6 years old to hate every other person that is not Muslim. The Muslims don't have any place in the West. And if you say the contrary, you're a bunch of idiots.
Oh, on that note, I think we should dance and say arrivederci.
Okay.
I don't think I could take more.
Okay. But
I want to do a happy show.
Yeah,
Joyful.
Well,
about God
I
and
mean,
love.
we are.
I think I might become a preacher because I just can't take all this hate anymore.
Well, but one thing. I won't say propaganda on Palestine, that's such bullshit. No, it's not such bullshit. I haven't seen my son since the year 2008, and then he's in the hands of the Muslim, you motherfucker, who are watching there on the chat.
Okay, on that note.
On that note, I want to just show the note. These are people who are great lion of the keyboards, as we say, but who have no direct experience with Islam. I repeat, I lost my only son with Islam. And I never forget, the family of the Prophet Muhammad is directly responsible. And my war is going to be till the end of times against the Muslims. Put it in your head and bring it home. I'm not scared of the Muslims, guys. You might be scared. I will never be scared, because Jesus is our Lord, and Jesus is the Lord and the King in the end times. And even the Muslims know. In fact, they have it on the Holy Book. Get it? Because that's a very important thing to clear. In the Quran it says, because Muhammad went up in the sky, he couldn't come down. The guy who has to deal with the end times is Jesus.
That's right, Jesus.
So at least
back. Maybe he's here already. We don't know.
Maybe one admission of truth has been made by the Muslims. One. Let's hope other will follow. Because as you can see from the comments on this book on Amazon, even the Muslims had to admit that I was correct, because I studied the Quran surah by surah to do this book. Thank you so much. And God bless you all. And I see you next Saturday with Christy for another great episode of the Leo Zagami Show.
In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong direction.
Christy said today, maybe?
I don't want to dance today.
Because we are going to honor Charlie Kirk. We're going to honor him, remember him, and may God grant him all that is great in the heavens.
Technology, social organization, dehumanization, even negative utopia, science, technology, social organization. Technology, social organization, dehumanization. Technology, social organization.